Question number 7, the Honourable Trevor Mallard.
My question is to the Minister of Education and asks, does she stand by her statement in regard to national standards? There will be no concessions, there will be no trial period.
The Honourable Anne Tully.
Mr Speaker, yes, and I also stand by the next part of that quote. Parents want national standards and they're going to get them from next year. There will be constant evaluation, the tenders are just being let, and if adjustments need to be made, then that will happen.
The Honourable Trevor Mallard.
Does she agree with the statement that, quote, the trials are an important step that allows standards and internal assessment resources to be road tested with actual students before being implemented?
The Honourable Anne Tully.
Mr Speaker, from memory, that quote comes from the New Zealand Council for Educational Research's submission as part of the consultation on the national standards last year. They made 3 main points. 2 of them were we agreed with totally. In fact, they agreed totally with the national standards and the way they're being implemented, and were very complementary. The third area was around the timing of the implementation, and their recommendation was that we have a national road test for 12 months. As I say, that was one of the submissions. That was 11,000 were made during the consultation period. I think that 2 areas out of 3 weren't bad that we were agreed on.
The Honourable Trevor Mallard.
Was the Minister aware that the statement I just quoted came not from NZCR but from last week's edition of her Education Gazette on how to develop quality standards?
The Honourable Anne Tully.
Mr Speaker, as I started my answer from recollection, that quote was indeed part of NZCER's submission in the consultation last year. That was their recommendation. Now, whether you say, I'm on record as saying that we're happy to have this year with the standards as a bedding-in year. So whether you describe it as a bedding-in year or a road test, I think they're pretty close. I think that it's very good to have the research organisation like NZCER on side with the national standards.
Colin King.
Supplementary question to the Minister. Why didn't the government have a trial period for national standards?
The Honourable Anne Tully.
Mr Speaker, this government was elected with a very clear mandate from parents to introduce national standards, to ensure that their children were being assessed against nationally consistent benchmarks, and to ensure that parents received in plain language reports about their child's progress. Now, I've seen all sorts of suggestions for trials. One, for example, would involve a 5-year trial of the standards. Now, I can put it no better than one of the parents who attended one of the national standards meetings around the country who said, "Why should my children have to wait any longer?"
The Honourable Trevor Mallard. The Honourable Trevor Mallard.
Why does her ministry, under her direction, consider it vital to trial minor changes to the NCEA but not the national standards?
The Honourable Anne Tully.
Mr Speaker, there's such a difference. There is such a difference between NCEA, which has been in schools since early in the 2000s, which are very high stakes for students because they represent national qualifications, and we have with NCEA what a consistent process of improvement, and that's exactly what I've said will be in place for the national standards. We will constantly improve them because actually they're not about systems, they're about kids and kids' educational success.
The Honourable Trevor Mallard.
Why is it vital to trial minor changes to NCEA but not her new national standards?
The Honourable Anne Tully.
Mr Speaker, I've just answered that.
Order. Order. Actually, if the member feels his question wasn't answered to his satisfaction, he's entitled to use a further supplementary to ask the same question again, and people can make their judgments about the quality of answers. And I guess if the minister says, I've answered that, that is a reasonable, that is an answer to it, and then the members can make their judgments about the adequacy of the previous answer. Question number 9, Darian Fenton.